Well, if Thanos is out to prove one thing, it's this. He has the biggest stones in the universe. Hello everyone, my name is Ryan Cam and welcome to my review for Avengers Infinity War. This movie was directed by the Russo brothers and it stars pretty much all the Avengers minus Ant-Man. And for this video, I'm going to be splitting it into two parts, spoiler-free and spoiler-filled. The spoiler-free part is for the two people that haven't seen this movie yet. However, if you want to skip this part and just go straight to the spoiler-filled portion, I'll put a time code in the lower third of this video so you can just hop straight to that. But spoiler-free for now. This movie is about Thanos, pretty much. He's out to cleanse the universe by collecting the Infinity Stones, basically the most powerful objects in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And if he finds all 6 and collects them into this gauntlet, then with the snap of a finger, he could wipe out half of the known universe. And Thanos feels that it's his civic duty to do so. He feels as though he has been chosen to, quote, balance the universe. And of course, that's a really bad day for us, so the Avengers have to assemble to stop him. Right around this time, 10 years ago, the first Iron Man was released. Now, comic book movies were in an incredibly different place. Most comic book movies were normally one-offs. You would have a character, you would have a villain, that main hero would defeat the villain, rinse, lather, repeat over 2 movies or even a trilogy if the studios were feeling generous. There was almost no continuity or long-form storytelling. It was one movie, then another movie, then another movie. The X-Men films did this, the Spider-Man films did this, the Blade films did this. This was the norm for comic book movies until Iron Man. And I talk about in my Iron Man review, link below, that Iron Man pretty much changed the game in terms of planting the seeds for a cinematic universe. And when we first saw Nick Fury talk to Tony Stark about forming the Avengers, we were all like, yeah, that'll never happen. But those cynics were probably the first people in line to buy their tickets for this movie. But in terms of Avengers Infinity War, this movie had an almost unfilmable task. They had to take all of these characters, all of these personalities, put them onto one screen, and achieve some semblance of balance. Because not every character in the MCU is the same. Iron Man and Doctor Strange are far more serious characters, while the Guardians of the Galaxy are much more aimed at comedy. It seems like these characters should not work together, but by God, the Russo brothers somehow made it work, almost to a frustrating level. I'm sitting there thinking, how did the Russos manage to pull this off? Because if you were to present this to me in a script form, I would have said, this could never work. You would have to build up this character, but then you would take away from this character. And it would just resemble that map in the Duck Dodgers cartoon where Duck Dodgers is like, you have to go up here, around the corner there, back up there, through the loophole there, and then we will reach our destination. However, the Russo brothers did it. They pulled it off in spades. Upon first watch, I was like, the tone is kind of noticeably changed, and this movie is pretty long in the tooth. Because this movie is 2 hours and 30 minutes long. It is a major time investment. However, upon rewatch, this movie flows a lot better because the Russo brothers did an incredibly smart thing. They grouped certain characters together, and they just allowed them to riff. And I think that was genius. Like Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange were all in one group. Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy were in another group. You get the point. And really, what makes this movie so great is that it not only balances the personalities between these characters, but it also balances great humor with great drama. There are some scenes where I was laughing out loud, and there were some scenes where I almost felt like I was gonna cry. Seriously. Call me a Marvel fanboy all you want, but a spade is a spade. But easily, hands down, the best part of the movie is Thanos. This guy is the man. This guy is like if Stone Cold Steve Austin grew about 5 feet taller, became purple, and wielded the most powerful weapon in the universe. This guy is motivated, he has all the power that he could ever want, and he wants to destroy some stuff. But unlike another comic book movie, Justice League, sorry, he has a clear motivation as to why he is doing the things that he's doing. He knows that if he destroys half the universe, then the people will be grateful, and he will be, in some sense, a hero. I heard somewhere that the villains always believe that they're the hero of their own story. And that example is no truer than with Thanos in this movie. In terms of flaws, I feel like at times, if you're gonna watch this for the first time, the tone between dramatic and funny will be a little jarring, but I promise upon second rewatch it'll flow much nicer. Like, for example, in the first Battle of New York, after that it just immediately transitions to the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Rubber Band Man by the Spinners starts playing. And at first I was like, oh, hello, hi, where do we go with this? But then, upon second rewatch, I'm like, okay, this is actually pretty good now. But upon first viewing, I was like, oh man, I'm starting to get kind of bored. Oh, we're back now. Just when you think you're about to get somewhat bored, the movie just either introduces a new character or starts an action scene, and you're immediately brought back into the movie. And I feel like that is what makes this movie great. It provides great balance between dramatic and serious and funny and lighthearted. All of the characters do a great job with especially Thanos. The CGI is beautiful, and I feel like this is a true comic book event movie. Not a lot of these are going to come around, so this movie really only had one shot, and it hit it out of the park. My final grade for this movie is an amazing. I know, it seemed very predictable, but I don't care. I'm going to call it like it is and say that this movie is incredible. It was my most anticipated movie of the year, and it exceeded all of my expectations. Now is the part of the spoiler-filled discussion. So, if for some reason you have not seen this movie, abandon ship now, because I'm going to talk about a lot of spoilers for the rest of this video. You have been warned. So I feel like the biggest spoiler I could talk about really is Thanos, because this really is the Thanos show. I feel like that without Thanos, it would have just been a lesser of a movie. He really is the driving force behind the Avengers getting back together and fighting the common cause. Because if you remember at the end of Captain America Civil War, the Avengers broke up. Tony Stark even says so in the movie. Yeah, we broke up. We're toast. But when we first get introduced to Thanos in the movie, his little minion there, Ebony Maw, who, by the way, is incredible. I mean, he's one of those villains you just love to hate, along with Marty Skrull. But the movie opens up, and it's the Asgardian arc, and at the end of Thor Ragnarok, when pretty much all the Asgardian population were on the ship because Asgard was destroyed. And at the opening of the movie, it's like, we need help, we're being attacked. And then we get onto the ship, and the ship is just destroyed. People are dead. It's just not a good place. And here comes Ebony Maw, all like, rejoice, for in your suffering you have become children of Thanos. And then at first you don't see Thanos because he's out of focus, but then he starts talking. I know what it's like to lose. To feel so desperately that you're right, yet to fail nonetheless. And then he bends down and he picks up somebody. He's like, who is he picking up? He's picking up Thor like a piece of luggage. And then he keeps monologuing. He's like, destiny always finds you. Dread it, run from it, it catches up. And then you find out that he already has one of the stones. And later on in the movie, Thor goes on to say, oh, he already got the Power Stone, he destroyed Xandar to get it. So he already has the Power Stone, he gets the Space Stone next. And Thor is like, we don't have the stone, it was destroyed on Asgard. But then Loki's like, that's not entirely accurate. And then he just holds it up in his hand, and Thor is like, you really are the worst brother. Thanos is like, you have made the wise choice, Asgardian. And Loki's like, first of all, I'm not Asgardian. And second of all, we have a Hulk. And then Hulk just bursts out of nowhere. And the Hulk and Thanos fight is glorious. Not just in the fight itself, but how it's filmed. A common complaint with Captain America the Winter Soldier and Civil War, the other two superhero movies the Russo brothers made, is that the action was too shaky cammy. However, that is immediately cured with the first fight of the movie. Hulk and Thanos are just beating the crap out of each other. Ebony Maw's like, let him have his fun. Thanos just completely overpowers Hulk, knees him in the face, and then just press slams him into the concrete. And I'm like, good Christ. He kills off Heimdall, Idris Elba's character, and then he kills Loki. Like, just straight up just chokes him out. Not like just give him a humane death, like snapping his neck. No. Thanos straight up chokes him out. He's like, done. Like, Loki is done. And then after he's done, Thanos is like, no more tricks. No more resurrections. And then Maw's just this little weasel. He's like, there is no being who has had the will to hold one stone, let alone two. And in my best Will Smith voice, I was like, hey Jeffrey, you hear this? I just heard a loud sucking noise. Nonetheless, Thanos has two stones. He gets the Reality Stone on Nowhere. Nowhere was in Guardians of the Galaxy. It was being kept by the Collector, Benicio del Toro's character, which Josh Brolin, Benicio del Toro, nice little No Country for Old Men reunion. Anyway, the Collector is also dead, and Thanos gets the stone, but not after rubbing it in Star-Lord's face. Star-Lord calls him Grimace, which was hysterical, and Thanos captures Gamora also, because I almost forgot that Thanos and Gamora were mother and daughter, or stepdaughter, if you will. And I immediately knew that Thanos was going to be a great villain in that flashback when when Thanos invades Gamora's home planet, and Thanos is like, hello, little one, what is your name? I'm like, oh crap. And then he takes Gamora off to the side and gives her this knife, and is like, do you see what I'm trying to do? I'm trying to achieve perfect balance. And he's distracting Gamora while he just genocides half the population. And Gamora tries to look back. He's like, no. Stay focused. I'm not killing half the people. But he just completely destroys Nowhere. He gets the Reality Stone. He now has 3 stones at this point. He basically tortures his daughter Nebula in order for Gamora to tell him where the Soul Stone is, which is tucked away on this planet called Vormir, which looks like a combination of the Misty Mountain and the planet where Darth Vader's lair was in Rogue One. Thanos and Gamora go there, and this cloaked figure who looks like a Dementor, he's like, you have come looking for the Soul Stone, Thanos. And Thanos is all like, you know me? And the hooded figure's like, it is my curse to know all who come searching for the stones. And then the hooded figure is actually Red Skull. From Captain America, the first Avenger, yeah, he's Red Skull. And I don't know for sure if he's played by Hugo Weaving. Actually, let me check that. Okay, so apparently it was a guy named Ross Marquand and not Hugo Weaving. It's kind of a shame, really, because I really liked Hugo Weaving as the Red Skull. That would have been cool, but c'est la vie, I guess. But anyway, this new Red Skull who is there, he's talking to Thanos, and Thanos is like, how do you know this place? And Red Skull is like, a lifetime ago, I searched for the stones. I even held one in my hand. But now I am cursed to lead others to a treasure that I cannot find. Like, wow, that's a pretty sucky fate. But anyway, they get to this large chasm, and Thanos is like, how do I get the stone? And the Red Skull is like, you must provide a sacrifice, a soul for a soul. And Gamora starts laughing. She's like, out of all the years that I have dreamt of this moment. And Thanos turns around and he's crying. And I put two to two together. I'm like, well, rest in peace, Gamora. And yes, Gamora does in fact die, and Thanos gets the Soul Stone. He now has 4 stones. The Time Stone is probably the most difficult stone to get, because he not only has to battle Iron Man, Spider-Man, and Doctor Strange, but he has to battle Star-Lord, Mantis, and Drax. And all of them together come as close as they're probably ever going to get in terms of defeating Thanos and separating him from the Infinity Gauntlet. They all just team up on him, and they're like, we need to get the gauntlet off. And by this point, Star-Lord finds out when Mantis has Thanos under hypnosis, I guess. And Star-Lord's like, where is Gamora? Where is she? And Thanos is like, my Gamora. And then Mantis is like, he mourns. And then Drax is like, what does this monster have to mourn? And then Star-Lord puts 2 and 2 together. He's like, oh no. And then I was like, Quill, I know you're upset. I know you were in love with this girl, but please, the gauntlet is almost off. Just hold off for 5 more seconds. And then Quill is like, you bastard, no. And immediately I was like, Star-Lord, you had one job. Needless to say, he fights them all off and gets the Time Stone after Doctor Strange relinquishes it after Tony Stark is almost killed. The final stone he gets is the Mind Stone, which is currently in Vision's head. And it was pretty much a given that Vision was going to die, but he dies in a pretty violent way. At first, Scarlet Witch destroys it, but then Thanos is like, that's not how it works. Uses the Time Stone to turn back time, and then grab Vision by the neck, rips it out of his head, and Vision just crumples to the ground, and he is dead. D-E-D, dead. And then Thanos joins all the stones together, and you can just see the power running through him. Then Thor comes in, and he's like, not today, and he throws this massive axe it was called Stormbreaker, and it catches Thanos in the chest. This axe was forged by a gigantic dwarf played by Peter Dinklage. He's in this movie for all you Game of Thrones fans. And this Stormbreaker axe catches Thanos in the chest, like center mass. And Thor was like, I told you, you die for this. And he pushes it in further, and Thanos is like, ah! And then at the last possible moment, Thanos is like, you should have aimed for the head. And then he snaps his fingers. And then at first, it takes him off the earth, and I guess into a vision with Baby Gamora. And Baby Gamora is like, did you do it? And Thanos is like, I did. And Baby Gamora is like, what did it cost? And Thanos was like, everything. Then back on Earth, Thanos beams away. And at first I was like, okay, he snapped his fingers. Apparently the apocalypse is supposed to be happening. So why isn't it happening? Lamest apocalypse ever. It was supposed to be the seas turning to blood, sky turning dark, cats and dogs living together, total chaos. But no. People turn to dust in this movie, and they disappear. It starts off with the Winter Soldier. He's like, Steve, and then he just collapses and turns to dust. Black Panther turns to dust. Spider-Man and Groot turn to dust. those were brutal, because Groot is there and he's fading away and he's like, I am Groot. And Rocket's like, no, buddy, no. And then he fades away. I'm like, oh, geez. But then back on Titan, Doctor Strange vanishes, Drax vanishes, Star-Lord vanishes, Spider-Man vanishes, and it is brutal. He's like, no, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. I don't want to go, Mr. Stark, I don't want to go. And it was like, oh, no. Oh, no, 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 Russo brothers, no. The Russo brothers ripped out my heart, stomped a mud hole in its ass, and made me walk it dry by killing off Spider-Man. I'm sure I'm leaving off more heroes than that, but a lot of people die. And the most enduring image in this movie is when Captain America is just standing there. He's sitting there and he has that look of, my God, what have we done? It was like that look in the second Hobbit movie where Martin Freeman just sees Smaug flying away, and Smaug is like, I am fire, I am death. And then Bilbo's like, what have we done? And unlike other Avengers movies where it has the big triumphant music, da 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 da, or that's the wrong theme. It has that triumphant theme of da 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 da. Not this time. It has just simple black and white credits. It looked like a Christopher Nolan movie, and everyone after the end credits scene was just leaving like they had just left a funeral. Now I know what some of you are probably thinking. Oh, in the next movie they'll just cure all of that and they'll bring them all back. Well, that's true, but you never know. You know, the Russo brothers really have left the MCU in kind of a state of flux. Yes, we're going to get Ant-Man and the Wasp, but we just don't know what's going to happen in the next movie. That feeling of unpredictability is what I feel like this movie is going to leave it in terms of a lasting legacy. Because it did what I felt like Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1 did. It was that feeling of what's going to happen next. And unless you read the books, you know. But for most casual fans, it's like, where do we go from here? And I feel like that's what this movie did best. And that's why I think Avengers Infinity War is my favorite movie of the year so far. It just took every emotion, crammed it all into one movie. It took every single MCU character, crammed it all into one movie, and they just put me through the ringer. I love this movie to pieces. Definitely go check this one out. Like I said in my spoiler-free portion, I gave this movie an amazing, and my mind has not changed since. But this is probably the longest video I've done in a while, but it's worth it. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please be sure to leave a like and to also subscribe so that you never miss a new video where I can talk better than I talked just now. If you'd like to follow me on social media, the links to all of my social media will be in the description below. My name is Ryan Cam, and I'll see you in the next